Let's proceed to part 2, the division of the nervous system. The nervous system has two major parts. These are the central nervous system or CNS and peripheral nervous system or PNS. The central nervous system is also divided into two major structures. These are the brain and the spinal cord. The brain plays a central role in the control of most bodily functions, including awareness, movements, sensations, thoughts, speech, and memory. And some reflex movement can occur via spinal cord pathways without the participation of brain structures. The brain has four sections. These are the cerebrum, cerebellum, diencephalon, and brainstem. First section of the brain is the cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest part of the brain and divided into left and right hemispheres, and the hemispheres are divided into four lobes. The cerebrum is the uppermost part of the brain. The cerebrum itself contains the major lobes of the brain. These are the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and temporal lobe, and is responsible for receiving and giving meaning to information, form the sense organs, as well as controlling the body. Four lobes of the brain. First, the frontal lobe. It is important in the control of voluntary motor functions, motivations, aggression, mood, olfactory, and reception. Ang frontal lobe ay makikita sa bandang forehead natin o sa noo. Second is the parietal lobe. It is the principal center for receiving and consciously perceiving most sensory information such as touch, pain, temperature, and balance. Ito naman ay makikita sa bandang taas ng ating brain. Third is the temporal lobe. Is involved in smell and hearing sensation and plays an important role in memory. Ito ay makikita bandang malapit sa ating tenga. And the last occipital lobe function is receiving and perceiving visual inputs, and it is not distinctly separate from the other lobes. Ito naman ay makikita sa bandang malapit sa ating batok. Second section, the cerebellum. Cerebellum, it is attached to the brain stem. It is involved in maintaining balance, muscle tone, and fine muscle coordination and movement. Participate with cerebrum in learning motors such as balance, coordinations, posture, and speech. Cerebellum is a Latin for little brain. Ito ang yung maliit sa may baba ng cerebrum, or it is located in the back of your brain. Third, the diencephalon. It is the part of the brain between the brainstem and cerebrum. The diencephalon is a small part of the brain that is mostly hidden from view when you are looking at the outside of the brain. And it is made up of three components. These are the thalamus, which are the blue one, hypothalamus, the violet, and epithalamus, the smallest one. Main components, number 1, thalamus. Ito yung pinakamalaki na parte ng diencephalon sa may gitna. Epithalamus, ito yung pinakamaliit. Tapos yung hypothalamus, ito yung most interior of the diencephalon, control of body temperature, hunger, and tears. And last sections of the brainstem, connects to the spinal cord and to the remainder of the brain, contains several nuclei that is involved in vital body function such as controls of heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing. The brainstem is composed of the midbrain, which is the green one at the top, the pons, the red ones, and the medulla oblongata, the violet ones. Midbrain is the smallest region of the brainstem that is involved in hearing and visual reflexes. Ito ito yung midterm, yung kulay green. Pons is relay into between the cerebrum and the cerebellum. And medulla oblongata, center for respiration, contains nuclei that controls the regulation of heart rate and blood vessels, diameter, breathing, swallowing, vomiting, coughing, sneezing, balance, and coordination. The second major structure of central nervous system is the spinal cord. Spinal cord, it receives and transmits electric signals throughout the entire body. The spinal cord is divided into 4 different regions: the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral. First, the cervical. The cervical spine consists of 7 bones, C1 to C7 vertebrae, which are separated from one another by intervertebral disc. Ito ay matatagpuan bandang leeg natin. Contains of 7 bones, the C1 to C7. Second, thoracic. The thoracic spine is the longest region of the spine, and by some measures it is also the most complex. Ito ay matatagpuan bandang ribs natin. Ito ay consists of 12 bones, the T1 to T12 vertebrae. Third one, lumbar. The lumbar region of the spine, more commonly known as the lower back. It consists of 5 bones, the L1 to L5 vertebrae. And the last is the sacrum, consists of 5 bones, S1 to S5, and also the coccyx. Coccyx spine consists of 4 fused vertebrae with a total of 33 vertebral column. And also, we have true ribs, 7 bones, false ribs, 3 bones, and floating 2 bones. Now that we know the brain and spinal cord is the primarily make up the central nervous system, let's look at the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system consists of the nerves that branch out from the brain and the spinal cord. These nerves form the communication network between the CNS and the body parts. The PNS is divided into the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. Somatic nervous system is responsible for carrying sensory and motor information, responsible for transmitting sensory information as well as for voluntary movement, while autonomic nervous system responsible for regulating involuntarily body function such as blood flow, heartbeat, digestion, and breathing. Somatic nervous system contains 2 major types of neuron, the sensory neurons and motor neurons. Sensory neurons is also known as afferent neurons, carry information from the nerves to the central nervous system. When we say sensory neurons are the nerve cells that are activated by sensory input from the environment. For example, when you touch a hot surface with your fingertips, the sensory neurons will be the ones sending signals to the rest of the nervous system about the information they have received. While motor neurons is also known as the efferent neurons, carry information from the brain and spinal cord to muscle fibers throughout the body. And motor neurons transmit signals from the brain and spinal cord that skeletal muscles to tense, which allows the body to move. Sensory somatic nervous system transmits sensory information from the body to the brain and motor movements from brain to the body. It is made up of cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Cranial nerves that emerge directly from the brain, in contrast to spinal nerves, which emerge from the segments of the spinal cord, while spinal nerves roots branch off the spinal cord and pass out through a hole in each of the vertebrae called the foramen. These nerves carry information from the spinal cord to the rest of the body and from the body back up to the brain. cranial nerve, we have 12 cranial nerve name. Number 1, olfactory, which is a sensory nerve. That nerve connects from nose to brain and its function is to smell. Number 2, optic. From the word optic, it is the nerve connect from eye to brain and it also a sensory nerve. Number 3, oculomotor. It is a motor nerve that function is the eyelid and eyeball muscles. Number 4 is the trochlear. It is a motor nerve that function eyeball muscles. Number 5 is the trigeminal, which is the mixed nerve because in sensory nerve it function is facial and mouth sensation. In motor is chewing. Number 6, abducens. It is a motor nerve that function is the eyeball movement. Number 7, facial. It is a mixed nerve because sensory nerve function is to taste. In motor, facial muscles and salivary glands. Number 8 is the auditory nerve, and it is a sensory nerve that function is to hearing and balance nerve that connects from ear to brain. Number 9 is the glossopharyngeal nerve. It is a mixed nerve that in sensory nerve function is to taste and motor is to swallowing. Number 10 is the vagus. It is also a mixed nerve, the main nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system or the PNS. Number 11 is the spinal accessory. It is a motor nerve that function is swallowing, moving head and shoulder. And the last is the hypoglossal. It is a motor nerve that function is the tongue muscles. And now let's proceed to autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system has two main divisions, the sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system is located to sympathetic chain which connects to skin, blood vessels, and organs in the body cavity, while parasympathetic nervous system is the branch of ANS responsible for the body's ability to recuperate and return to a balanced state after experiencing pain or stress. Sympathetic nervous system function to produce localized adjustments such as sweating as a response to an increase in temperature and reflex to adjustment of the cardiovascular system. And parasympathetic nervous system, it conserves energy to be used later and to regulate bodily function like digestions and urinations. And let's go back to sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system controls the fight or flight responses. In other words, this system prepares the body for physical activity, while the parasympathetic system regulates the rest and digest functions.